Hi guys. Good night, everybody. Just let me know if you guys can hear me before we start, please. All right, great. Right. Um. So good night, everybody. Right. The May 2025 CSEC Maths exam is fast approaching. Right. So I decided to give 1 or 2 free sessions for you guys. Right, in preparation for May 2025. Right. Now I do have my CSEC Maths crash course, my CSEC Physics crash course, Chemistry and AdMaths crash courses, right? And those are on specific days, right? Um, so what I'm going to be doing this afternoon here, I'm going to be going through some algebra type questions for you guys, right? And I wanted to share some statistics with you guys, right? So usually there are lots of students who write the CSEC maths exam in the Caribbean, right? Now in May 2024, right, there was a total of 70,000, right? Now that's not this number not looking right here. I guess 70. One sec, I just want to double check something here. I don't want to give you wrong data, all right? Yeah, it was 70,861. Yeah. So this is the number of students who actually wrote the CSEC maths exam in May 2024, right? But what is of concern to me is question 2 of that exam paper, right? There were, right? Now question 2 is usually about 9 marks, right? And in question 2 in the May 2024 exam, there were 562 students who got full marks in that question, right? But what is alarming to me is this figure here. There were 59,000, more than 59,000 students who got 0 in that particular question, right? And that is very alarming, right? So algebra is usually question 2 in your exam paper, right? It's usually question 2, right? And what I'm going to be focusing on, I'm going to be focusing on some exam questions pertaining to this, right? All right, so let's start with this question here, right? So this question here is from May 2012, right? Let me get some blank pages here. Right, so this is May 2012, and we have A part 1 here, and we want to do some factorizing, right? So we have 2x cubed y plus 6x squared y squared, and we want to factorize this, right? Now in your exam there are 4 different factorization that could come in the exam. That is the HCF method. We could get the difference of 2 squares, we can get grouping, and we can get a quadratic, right? Any one of those 4 can come in the exam. So for this particular one here, I'm going to use the HCF method in order to factorize this. So the first thing we normally do, we look at the numbers. So we have 2 and we have 6. And you're going to ask yourself, what is the highest number that can go into 2 and 6, right? So the highest number that can go into both of them here is going to be 2. So we're going to factor out 2 here. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to look at, we have x cubed and we have x squared. Now, the highest power of x that can go into both of them is actually going to be x squared. It's usually the one that has the lower power, right? So it's going to be x squared. Then we need to look at the y's. So we have y and we have y squared. So the highest power of y that can go into both of them is simply going to be y, open brackets. Now we need to decide what are we going to put in the bracket in order to complete this factorizing here. So if you want to get back 2x cubed y, then all I need to do is to multiply by x, right? You're going to put a plus sign here because you're adding the 2 terms above. Now you have to ask yourself, this here multiplied by what will give me 6x squared y squared. So if you want to get the 6, you need to put a 3 here, because 2 by 3 will give me 6. You already have the x squared, but you need to get y squared, so this here is going to be y, right? So that's your answer for part 1, right? And that is using what we call the HCF method. The second one here, right, part 2, they want to factorize 9x squared minus 4. So we have 9x squared minus 4. Now I want you all to pay attention to something like this. You see, when CSEC tells us to factorize completely, sometimes there may be a trick in the question, right? Now if I want to factorize 9x squared minus 4, right, this is actually a difference of two squares. How do I know that? Because this here, 9x squared, is a square number, or a square variable, and this 4 here is also a square number, right? Now normally what I will tell students to do is to write it as the difference of two squares. So this 9x squared, I can actually write that as 3x squared, right, minus 2 squared. So now I have the difference of 2 squared here. So basically this will be 3x plus 2 in one bracket multiplied by 3x minus 2 in a second bracket, right? So this is what we call the difference of two squares. If you're wondering what am I using here, right? So we're using this identity in order to factorize this thing here. Anything in the form a squared minus b squared, I can write that as a plus b in one bracket, a minus b in a second bracket. That's called the difference of two squares, right? Now let me just have a look at the chat here. I'm not really paying attention to the chat, right? Right, I see some people asking where that statistics came from. That statistics came directly from CSEC, right? So those of you wondering where that where those numbers came from, I didn't make up those numbers. That is directly from CSEC, right? And it's, like I said, it's very alarming, right? All right, so let's go back to this here now. So so that's part 1, right? Part 2 here, right? Let me Alright, so we want to factorize this here, right? So when you look at this here, you have 4 terms, right? So it doesn't look like the HCF method because I don't have something common to all of them. I can't use the difference of two squares because when we're using the difference of two squares, there are 2 terms which are square variables. So in this case here, chances are we're going to have to use factorizing by grouping, right? So here's what you do when you factorizing by grouping. And how you identify grouping is that you will see 4 terms most of the times, right? So what you're going to do, you're going to say, all right, let's see if we can find something common with these first 2 terms. And let's see if we can find something common with this here. So the first thing, if we look at 4x squared plus 8xy, you can factor out 4, right? When we look at the x squared and the x, you can factor out x, open brackets. So if you want to get back 4x squared, this has to be an x. And this here is going to be 4 by 2 is 8. And we're going to have this, right? So therefore, when we factorize the first 2 terms, it'll be 4x, open brackets, x plus 2y. Now, the next thing that we need to do now, we need to factorize the negative xy minus 2x squared. Now, what is common to both of them, right? So x is not common, but you have a y that is common to both of them. So let's factor out the y, right? Now, in this case here, we're going to have to put a minus if you want to factor out the y, open brackets, and you want to get negative xy, so this has to be x. And if you want to get minus 2y squared, this has to be plus 2y, right? So now, when you're factorizing by grouping, what you need to pay attention to is the fact that your 2 brackets here, they have to be the same. If they are not the same, then you've done something wrong, right? So in this case here, what's going to happen, you're going to write down the common bracket. Now you can write it first or after, doesn't matter. So I write the common bracket first, right? Open brackets, and then the next bracket is going to have 4x, right? And you're going to look at this here, and this is minus y, right? Now I've had students ask me, sir, what if you have it the other way around? So because multiplication is commutative, you could have also written your answer as 4x minus y in one bracket and then x plus 2y in the second bracket, right? So this is what we call factorizing by grouping, and yes, it can come in the exam, right? So this is A part 1, 2, and 3, right? So ATF method, factorizing by grouping and the difference of two squares. The next one that we're going to do here is part B, and this tends to give students some trouble, right? So let's see how we can fix this. All right, so we have 2x minus 3 divided by 3 plus 5 minus x over 2 is equal to 3. And you want to solve this, right? Now, different teachers will tell you different ways to work this out, right? And in this case here, right? In this case here, I'm going to show you the method that I normally teach my class, right? So I generally don't like to work in fractions, and so does my class, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write this as 2x minus 3, right? All over 3 plus 5 minus x all over 2 is equal to 3 over 1. If you're all wondering why am I doing that, I'm writing it so that in my mind I can see that each term is a fraction, right? Every term is a fraction. Now here's what I've taught my class to do. What we're going to do, we're going to look at your denominators here. So we have 3, we have 2, and we have 1. And the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to find the LCM of 3, 2, and 1, right? For those of you who don't know how to find LCM, let's say we have 3. What we're going to do, we're going to write out the multiples of 3, which will be 3, 6, 9, 12, and so we keep going, right? Multiples go till infinity. If we were to write out the multiples of 2, right? The multiples of 2 will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and again that goes till infinity, right? If I were to write down the multiples of 1, right? You're counting in ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we go till infinity, right? Now, if I look at those three numbers here, right? The 1, 2, and the 3, my LCM, if you all understand what LCM means, it is the lowest common multiple. So we're going to look at these numbers that we wrote out there, and we're going to find the lowest out of all of them, right? That is common to all of them. If you look carefully, you're going to realize you have 6 here, we have a 6 here, and we have a 6 here. 6 is common to all of them, and that is the smallest number that is common to all of them. So my LCM is actually 6, right? So we're not guessing 6 here, right? We're actually trying to figure out what is the actual LCM. Now, what do I do with that LCM? So what I normally tell students to do, once you get the LCM, you're going to multiply every single term by 6 in this case here. So I'm going to write it out as 2x minus 3 all over 3 multiplied by 6 over 1. Now I'm going to put a bracket here to make our answer look a little cleaner, right? Open brackets, 5 minus x all over 3, right? Multiplied by 6 over 1, right? Is equal to, so you're taking the 3 over 1 and you're going to multiply by 6 over 1, right? So all I'm doing here is multiplying everything by 6, right? Now, what's going to happen is that some things are going to cancel, right? So in this case here, this 3 will go into the 6 2 times, right? There's not about error here. Hold on. There's a 2, right? There's a 2 here, right? All right, so this 2 will go into this 3 times, right? So the key thing here is that I'm multiplying everything by the LCM, and that is to get rid of all the fractions. So therefore, this first term here will be 2, open brackets, 2x minus 3, right? Plus, this one will be 3, open brackets, 5 minus x is equal to 6 3s are 18, right? So now I have an equation here that I'm going to solve for x, right? So we need to take this and multiply by this. So we're using the distributive law here. So 2 by 2x, you'll get 4x. 2 by minus 3, you're going to get minus 6. Right? 3 by 5, you're going to get 15. Right? And then 3 by negative x, you're going to get minus 3x. Right? And this here is going to be equal to 18. Right? So now, all we need to do is to leave all the x's on one side. So we have 4x minus 3x, right, is equal to 18 minus 15 plus 6. So therefore, 4x minus 3x will just give me x, right? 18 minus 15 is 3, and then 3 plus 6, you're going to get 9, right? Now let me just double check and make sure that answer is correct. So that's... Yeah, so this answer is correct here. X is actually equal to 9, right? All right, and I'll get a chance to look at the chat, how long this session is going to last. There are 4 questions that I'm going to do, right? If I finish before my scheduled time, then I will go on a little longer, right? Somebody's asking how much marks for all of that. That may have been about 3 marks or so, right? When it comes to algebra, the most they might give you is maybe 3 marks for this, something like this. Right? Somebody looking for a distinction, right? The key thing with maths is to practice as much questions as you can, right? That's the key thing with maths here. Right, so that's part B, right? That's part B. This next part here, we want to solve a pair of simultaneous equations, right? For those of you who don't know, there are several methods by which we can use to solve a pair of simultaneous equations, right? Now, you can solve a pair of simultaneous equations by 1, substitution. We can also use something called elimination, right? That's method 2. We can draw a graph and we can solve a simultaneous equation using a graph. If it's 2 linear simultaneous equations, we can also use a matrix method as well. If it comes in question 2, chances are it will not be the matrix method. If it comes in question 2, it will not be a graph, right? So chances are it might be elimination or substitution, right? Now, when you are given 2 equations, what you should do is to first decide, am I going to use elimination or substitution, right? Now, honestly, I prefer elimination, right? So you're going to look and see what we have here. We have a 3x and a 2x. We have a 2y and a 5y. So therefore, it is not as easy to eliminate. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to label our equations. That's step 1, right? So let's call that equation 1. And let's call this equation 2. Right? Now what we have to decide on is what am I going to eliminate, right? Now because I want to show you something here, I'm going to make a decision and I want to eliminate y, right? You could have easily eliminated x if you wanted, but I'm going to eliminate y because that will give students a little trouble. So I'm going to do it a harder way then, right? So here's what I'm going to do. You have a 2y here and you have a 5y here. So we need to make sure those 2 numbers or those 2 variables are the same if I'm going to use elimination here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my first equation. So let's call that equation 1. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply equation 1 by 5, right? If I multiply equation 1 by 5, 5 by 3 is 15. So this is 15x. If I take minus 2y and I multiply by 5, I'm going to get minus 10y. And then if I take 10 and multiply by 5, I'm going to get 50, right? So let's call this equation 3 now, right? Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take our second equation, which is equation 2, and you're going to multiply this equation now by 2. So this will give me 2 by 2 is 4x, right? And then 5y by 2y will give me plus 10y. And then 13 by 2 will give me 26. So this here is equation 4, right? Now, this is where students get a little trouble. So can you guys tell me, how am I going to eliminate y? Am I going to add or am I going to subtract equation 3 and 4? What do you all think? Right? Some people saying add, right? Some people saying add. What else? Right? So we have some bright students here, right? The majority of you all saying to add, right? Yes, I would add, right? So some students trying to figure out why we adding, right? Why we not subtracting? The thing is, you want to eliminate your y, right? So if you want to eliminate your y, for those of you saying to add, this is what will happen if you add, right? If I have minus 10y plus 10y, right, you're going to get 0, right? So therefore, you're going to eliminate y. For those of you saying to subtract, if we take minus 10y and you minus 10y, you're going to get minus 20y. So therefore, you've not eliminated anything. So what we're going to do, we're going to add the two equations. So we're going to say equation 3, right, plus equation 4, right? So we're going to add both of these here, right? So 15x plus 4x, you're going to get 19x, right? The y's will cancel out, right? And then we're going to, this will be 5 and 2, this is going to be 76, right? So therefore, let's solve for x. So this is going to be 76 over 19, right? Does that work out to a nice flush number? Let's see, 76. Yeah, we have 4, right? So we get x is equal to 4. Now, once you get one of the variables, right? In this case here, x is equal to 4, we're going to figure out what y is, right? Now, you can plug the x into any equation that you want. So let's say, so we're going to say substitute x equal to 4 into, let's say, equation 1, right? In this case here, we have 3 multiplied by 4 minus 2y is equal to 10, right? So 12 minus 2y is equal to 10, right? So negative 2y is equal to 10 minus 12. So therefore, negative 2y is equal to minus 2. And therefore, y is equal to minus 2 all over negative 2. So therefore, y is equal to 1, right? So those are my two values here, right? So x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 1, right? So this is how you do a question like this, right? Right, I'm just looking at the chat here. So guys, remember in the paper too, we can use the calculator. So please make use of the calculator, right? All right, so that is our first question here from May 2012, right? The next one I have here, right, is from January 2012, right? Make this a little bigger. Yeah. So the first one here, they gave them a simultaneous equation again, right? And let me just copy it on the next page. Right, so we want to solve this here, right? So for this one here, we have two equations, right? So let's call this equation 1, right? And let's call this equation 2. All right, so for this one here, let me show you a different method, right? So let's say what I could do with this equation here, I can take the second equation, right? And I can rearrange this so that I get x is equal to minus 1 plus 2y, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use substitution instead of elimination to work this one, right? Just to give you a different way of working it. So the second equation, I made x the subject of the formula. And then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to substitute, right, equation 3 into equation 1. Right? So if I do that, what I'm really doing is anywhere we see x, right, in equation 1, I'm going to replace that with all of this, right? So you're taking all of this here and you're going to put that into this equation. That's what you're really doing, right? So in this case here, it's going to be 3, open brackets, minus 1 plus 2i, right? Plus 2i is equal to 30, right? So this method is called substitution. So what we need to do, we need to remove the brackets. So 3 by minus 1, you're going to get minus 3. Then 3 by 2y, you're going to get plus 6y, right? Plus 2y is equal to 13, right? So let's leave all the y's on one side. So 6y plus 2y is equal to 13 plus 3. Yeah, 13 plus 3, right? So 6 and 2 is 8. So 8y is equal to 16. So therefore y is equal to 16 over 8. So therefore y is equal to 2, right? So this technique is called substitution. So I've worked out what y is, right? So if I want to get what y is, the next step is to figure out what x is. So we're just going to substitute x into the third equation, sorry. So this is going to be minus 1 plus 2 by 2. So this is going to be minus 1. 2 by 2 is 4, right? So lots of students have trouble with directed numbers. Minus 1 plus 4, I normally teach this in terms of money because everybody understands money. So you're owing somebody $1, but you have $4. It means you can pay them back and you will still have $3 left. So minus 1 plus 4 is going to give me 3, right? So that's the answer for that one here, right? Okay, some people are asking, so guys, CXC does not force us to use any one method. So if you want to use elimination, that's great. If you want to use substitution, that's fine as well, right? They don't force us, they don't tell you to use any one particular method, right? Right, so that is part A, right? Part B is factorizing. So let me get some blank slides here. Right, while I'm getting some blank slides, for those of you who have not hit like and subscribe, please do so, right? All right, part B of this question here, we have 2 factorizing to complete, right? So the first one, part 1, we have x squared minus 16, and we want to factorize this. Now, the first thing, you need to figure out which one of the 4 factorizing methods are we going to use here, right? If you look at the x squared and the 16, those are 2, one is a square variable and one is a square number, right? And they're separated with a minus sign. So therefore, this is the difference of 2 squares. So this is going to be, let's write it as the difference of 2 squared first. So this is x minus 4 squared. That's the difference of 2 squares. So therefore, if I factorize this, it's going to be x plus 4, right? In one bracket, x minus 4 in the second bracket, right? So that's my answer here when I factorize the difference of 2 squares. Now the second one here, it kind of looks like a quadratic, right? If you were to simplify, it is a quadratic. So this is going to be 2x squared minus 3x plus 8x minus 12, right? So we can identify 4 terms here. So we're going to use factorizing by grouping. So what you're going to do, you're going to factorize these first 2, and then you're going to factorize this here, right? So in the first 2, if you try to find what is common, right, we can factor out x, open brackets, 2x minus 3, right? So that's what we get when we factorize the first two terms. Then we need to factorize 8x minus 12. So what can we pull out? We can pull out 4, right? So let's put a plus 4 here, right? Open brackets, right? This will be 2x. And if you want to get back minus 12, this has to be minus 3. Now, like I said before, in the last one that we did, if for any reason you are factorizing and you realize this bracket and this bracket here are different, something is wrong with your answer, right? So in this case here, I normally write down the first bracket first, the one that's common, sorry. So this is 2x minus 3, that's common. And the next bracket now will have this term, which is x, and you will have plus 4. So x plus 4, right? Again, students wonder if we have it reverse. Yes, multiplication is commutative. So you can write this as x plus 4 in one bracket, 2x minus 3. Right? So either one of these answers, you'll be okay, right? Right, so that is right. So that takes care of part B. Now this next one here now, they like to bring questions like this in your people, right? So tickets for a football match are sold for $30, right? Listen, hold on. I just wanna let me take the question by itself and put it on the next sheet. All right, let's read this now. So tickets for a football match are sold at $30 for each adult and $15 for each child. A company bought 28 tickets, right? So you have tickets here, right? So with respect to the tickets, you can have an adult ticket or you can have a child ticket. If X tickets were for adults, write in terms of X the number of tickets for children. Could you all put that for me? For part A here, could you all put what you think that is? X tickets are for adults, then how many tickets are for children? What you all think that is? Alright, so let me see what people are saying here. Alright, so let's read it carefully, right? So remember, you have two kinds of tickets, right? So you can have adult, right? Or you can have child. Those are the two possibilities here, adult or child, right? Now, if you read it carefully, they said a company bought 28 tickets, right? So you have 28 tickets in total, right? Now they said, if X tickets, so we have X being adults, right? So if you know you purchase X for adults, and in total you purchase 28, the amount of children tickets that you have will be 28 minus X. Think about it. If I told you I purchased 28 tickets, right? And if I only purchased 20 adult tickets, and you want to figure out how many child tickets we have, and you're going to take 28 and subtract the 20, right? So it's the same thing here. We're going to take 28 and subtract X, right? What about part B? What is the amount spent on tickets for adults? What is that one? What you all think is that one there? What is the amount spent on adult tickets? Now, even though this paper is an older paper, right? These are things that I know for sure can come in your exam, right? So be careful. right? I've seen some students from my maths class here, right? And I see correct answers, which is great. Right? So, the amount of adult tickets that we purchase is this. You have X adult tickets, right? But if you read the question carefully, they said you're paying $30 for each ticket. So if you purchase one ticket, you're going to pay $30. If you purchase two tickets, you'll pay 2 by 30, which is $60. So if you purchase X tickets, it'll be 30. You have to take the price of one ticket and multiply by the number of adult tickets. So it's 30X, right? What about part C? The amount spent on tickets for children. What is the amount spent on tickets for children? What's that one? Right, so seen a lot of correct answers. So remember, the amount of child tickets or children tickets is 28 minus X, right? This here is the amount of tickets that we have for children. This is 28 minus X, right? Now, if you want to figure out how much are we going to pay for those tickets, we just need to take that number and multiply by 15. So we're going to say 15 multiplied by 28 minus X. That is what we're going to write, right? So you have to take the cost per ticket for a child and multiply by 28 minus 8. Sorry, 28 minus X, right? If you're all wondering why I'm using a bracket, because 28 minus X, that is one term. So you need to put a bracket in, right? All right, now, what are we going to do now? So they said show that the total amount spent on the 28 tickets, right? So here's what we need to do. So we have 30X. This is the total cost for the adult tickets. Plus, we need to work out the cost for the kid tickets or children tickets. So that's 15 by 28 minus X, right? And somehow we need to simplify this so that we get this, right? So here's what you're going to do. Can't do anything with the 30 as yet. So you're going to put 30X. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the brackets. So I'm going to say 15 by 28, right? So 15 by 28, you're going to get 420. So this is going to be plus 420. Then we have to take that 15 and you have to multiply by minus X. So this is minus 15X. Now let's simplify this. So we have 30X minus 15. So you're going to get 15X here plus 420. Right? Which is exactly what they told us to prove. Right? So that's what we did there. We just proved that the total cost for the 28 tickets is 15X plus 420. Right? So, so yeah, that's part 2. Right? Now the third part says, given that the cost for the 28 tickets is 660, calculate the number of adult tickets bought by the company. So, since you know the total cost is 15X plus 420, right? That's the algebraic expression for the total cost. But then they told you that the total cost is 660. So you're going to put this equal to 660 and we're going to try to solve it. So we're going to get 15x is equal to 660, right? Minus 420, right? All right, so 6 minus 2, you'll get 4, and 6 take away 4, you'll get 2, so that's 240. So therefore, x is equal to 240 over 15. So therefore, the number of right, so we're going to get 16 here, right? So the question says the number of adult tickets. So remember, at the beginning of the question, they said x is the number of adult tickets. So therefore, the answer should be 16, right? Right? So I hope that makes sense, right? I hope that makes sense, right? Somebody's asking about additional class. So my Form 5 maths class is about to wrap up. I'm not taking any more students in that class, right? If anybody wants to attend my crash course, right? So my crash course will be on the 5th, 6th, and the 7th, right? And that'll be in the night, right? Around 8 o'clock. And the exam, your paper 2, is on the Friday, right? So if you're interested, just send me a WhatsApp, right? It doesn't matter which country you're from, right? You should be able to attend. And yes, it's that one is a paid class, right? That one is a paid class. All right, so let's see. What else do we have here? All right, so that takes care of January 2012, right? Let's see what else we have here. All right, so this is May 2011, right? And let's see what we want to do here. Right, just now we solved an equation pertaining to an expression like this, right? But this time here, they want us to write as a single fraction. Now, I've seen students struggle with this, right? So x minus 2 all over 3 plus x plus 1 over 4, right? And you want to write this as a single fraction. So what I will do, I'll put an equal sign here. And what we need to do, we need to find the LCM of 3 and 4. So I just showed you how to find the LCM. All we're going to do, you write out the multiples of 3, right? Now this goes till infinity, so you just do a few. So this one will be 3. And when you want to find multiples, you're actually counting in 3s here. So we go 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, right? 18. You're counting in 3s, or you keep adding 3 all the time. So those are the multiples. And this goes till infinity. In the case of 4, if you want to find the multiples of 4, you're counting in 4s. So this will be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and you keep going, right, till infinity. But all we're concerned about is the LCM. So we're looking for a number that is common to 2 of them, right? And we're looking for the lowest number common to both of them. If you look carefully, you're going to realize that 12 is the lowest number that is common to both of them. So therefore your LCM has to be 12, right? So for this here, you're going to put 12 here, right? Now this is where things get a little confusing for students, right? So here's the technique that we're using here, and it's exactly how you add two fractions. You're going to take the LCM and you're going to divide by your denominator here, right? So you're going to say 12 divided by 3, you're going to get 4. What do you do with that 4, right? So the first thing that we do with that 4, we're going to take that 4 and we're going to multiply that 4 by this here, right? That's what you're going to do. So this is going to be 4 multiplied by x minus 2, right? Make sure and use your brackets. That is what helps you in the exam, right? So next thing we're going to do now, you add a plus sign, you're adding the two fractions, so you put a plus here. Then we're going to take this 12 again, that's the LCM, but you're going to divide now by this denominator here. So 12 over 4, you're going to get 3. What do I do with that? I'm going to take that now, right? And I'm going to multiply, right, by this here, right? So when you multiply by that numerator, right, this is going to be 3, open brackets, x plus 1, right? I cannot stress how important it is to use brackets, right? Because I see students making mistakes all the time. So in this case here, what we're going to do, right, we're going to remove the brackets, right? So you're going to use your distributive law. So some of my better students, they put arrows. I don't care if they put the arrows once they understand what they're doing, right? So in the exam, you can use your pencil and put in these arrows here. That is going to tell you exactly what you need to multiply, right? So I'm putting in the arrows here to show what I have to multiply. So 4 by x, you're going to get 4x. 4 by minus 2, you'll get minus 8. Then we have 3 by x, so you're going to get plus 3x. Then 3 by 1, you're going to get 3, right? All over 12, right? So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to simplify. So you bring all your x's together. So you have a 4x and a 3x, so that's 7x. And then you have minus 8 plus 3. Lots of students have trouble with negative numbers. Always think of it in terms of money, because money makes sense. So you're owing somebody $8, right? But you have $3. It means you could give them back some of the money, but you're still going to owe them $5. So this is going to be 7x minus 5, right, all over 12. Right? And that's the answer there. They want you to write as a single fraction, right? So it's going to be 7x minus 5 all over 12, right? Right? Now checking the chat here. Some of you are asking about physics, right? So I have a 1-day physics crash course, right? It will be on a Saturday, and that's from 9 till about 1:30 in the afternoon, right? So if you're all interested in joining that, just send me a WhatsApp, right? Send me a WhatsApp, right? All right. So yes. Please, you all are using my resources, right? So please hit like and please subscribe, right? If you haven't done so as yet, right? Because I can't tell you exactly when I'm going to go live again, right? So just hit the notification button, hit the bell, whatever. So once I go live, you'll get an alert, right? Right? Some of you will ask about cost and those things. Just send me a WhatsApp. Send me a WhatsApp, and when I get a chance, I'll just reply to you, right? All right, so that is part E, right? The next one is what we call binary operations, right? I know we are at the end of Form 5 here. Some students probably forget about binary operations, right? So this here is what we call a binary operation, right? And the symbol that they're using in this question here is a star. Right? What I want you to understand is it doesn't have to be a star, right? It could be a triangle, it could be a square, it could be a circle, right? So the binary operator could be any symbol, right? It could be something looking like this. That's a binary operator. It doesn't matter. It's just a symbol, right? But what is important here is how do we define the binary operation? Now the word binary here simply means two. So we're looking at two variables, right? A and B here. So A star B is equal to A plus B squared, right, minus 2AB, right? So in this case here, you're working out 3 star 4. That's what you're working out here, right? Now, if that's your binary operation you're working out here, what happens here is that A is equal to 3 and B is equal to 4. So this is really a substitution problem. And we're going to substitute those numbers into your definition for the binary operation. So A plus B squared, so that's going to be 3 plus 4 squared, minus, right, 2 by A is 3 and B is 4, right? So this is going to be 3 plus 4 is 7. So this is 7 squared minus 2 3s are 6 4s are 24, right? So this is going to be 7 7s are 49. Minus 24, right? 9 take away 4 is 5, and 4 take away 2 is 2, right? So that's your answer there, right? So this is what we call a binary operation, right? Right, so excellent. A lot of people getting 25, great, right? All right, part C here. Right, so in some of these older papers, right, they had a lot of factorizing questions. And if you're all wondering why I'm only using the older papers, it's because I worked practically most of the recent papers, right? From 2025 go back, most of those papers are worked on the YouTube channel here, right? So the first one here, part 1, you want to factorize x, y cube, right, plus x squared y, right? So what I'm going to use here, I'm going to use the HCF method. So if we look at the x and the x squared, I can factor out x. If I have the y cube and the y, I can factor out y, open brackets, So now you have to ask yourself, xy by what will give me xy cubed? So this has to be a y squared, right? Plus, you want to get x squared y. So we just need to put an x here, and that's it, right? That's it. That's the answer for part 1, right? So that is the HCF method I'm using here. For the second one, we have 4 terms, right? So we have 2mh minus 2nh minus 3m plus 3n, right? Now, once you guys see 4 terms, there's a good chance that it's going to be factorizing by grouping, right? So again, just like we did in the last 2 questions, what you're going to do, you're going to group and you're going to factorize each one separately, right? So when I factorize the first 2 terms, you have to look to see what is common, right? If we look at the 2mh and the 2nh, you can factor out 2h, open brackets, m minus n, right? And then we need to factorize the minus 3m plus 3n, right? So for this one here, we can factor out, right, so what is common here? So we can factor out, so put plus here, right? And that's not, no, you want to get minus, right? Hold on. Yeah, let's put a minus here, right? And let's factor out minus 3, right? You can also factor out k. K is also common. Open brackets. Now you want to get minus 3mk. So all you're missing here is an m. And you want to get plus 3nk. So if you want to get plus 3nk, all you need here is a minus n. Now some of you are wondering, why did I put minus? It is because minus 3k by minus n will give me plus 3nk, right? And again, when it comes to factorizing by grouping, the brackets need to be the same. If the brackets are different, then you know you're doing something wrong, right? So I write down the common bracket first, which in this case is m minus n, and then we're going to put 2h. This here is 2h, and then you have minus 3k, right? And that's it. We're done, right? Or you can write it as 2h minus 3k, right? Open brackets, m minus n. Right? So the order doesn't matter, right? Because, like I said, multiplication is commutative, right? Right? I seen somebody saying the PQ method. What is the product? Is it product quotient method you're talking about? All right, so somebody's asking a good question here, right? The order when you factorize by grouping. So when you factorize by grouping, right? CSEC will give you it in a particular order, but you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to do that. What you can do, right? You can shuffle it around. You can move around the terms if you find it's easier to work with, right? So you don't have to go exactly as CSEC have it, but at the same time, at the end of it, we're gonna get the same thing, right? We're gonna get the same thing, right? Somebody's asking, how do you make it to the merit list, right? So if you have to make it to the merit list, guys, you basically have to get, like, in the case of the multiple choice, you have to get full marks in the multiple choice, right? Because when it comes to maths, right, there are lots of people who will be getting full marks in that multiple choice. You need to get close to full marks in everything. Right now, most of you guys are in school. So with respect to your SBA, you have to have gone in the exam with close to 20% in your SBA, right? And as we're talking about the merit list, so in 2023, one of my students placed first in CSEC Maths, right? And in 2024, I had another student who placed 9th in CSEC Maths, right? With respect to chemistry, one of my students placed 4th in chemistry in CXC, right? Let's see. All right, so we did the factorizing. Now this next one here is a good one as well, right? All right, so this question is based on variation, So we have a table here, right? The table shows the corresponding values of the variables x and y, and they're giving us a statement here. They said y varies directly as x. Now we need to be able to translate words, right, into an equation. So when they tell you y varies directly as x, what they mean is this: y is proportional to x. That's what it means, right? Now, when it comes to proportional signs, we don't work in proportional signs. You need to replace the proportional sign with an equal sign, but you must include a constant called key, right? Now, it don't have to be called key, but you need a constant. So in this case here, I'm going to remove that proportional sign, and I'm going to put an equal sign, and it's going to be equal, y is equal to key times x, right? That's what we're going to put. Y is equal to key times x, right? So the wording they gave me, I was able to write this statement here, right? So y is equal to kx. Now, what I need to do in all of these questions, you need to figure out what key is. So CSEC will give us sufficient information to figure out what key is. So in the table, I know that when x is equal to 2, y has to be equal to 12. So I'm going to use that to figure out what key is. So therefore 12 is equal to key x, which in this case is k by 2. So therefore 2k is equal to 12. And therefore k is equal to 12 over 2. So therefore k is equal to 6, right? So make sure I'm making sense. Yeah. So k is equal to 6, right? Now the whole objective was to figure out what k is. So therefore y is equal to 6x, right? Now this is the key to working the entire problem now, right? So the whole objective, first of all, was to figure out what k is. We've done that. And this equation is going to be used to figure out everything else in the question, right? Now we need to figure out what a is. So what we know here is that when x is equal to 5, right, y is equal to e, right? So we're going to plug that into our equation. So you're going to say a, because that's what y is equal to 6 by x. So that's going to be 6 by 5. So therefore a is equal to 30, right? A is equal to 30, right? Next thing we need to do now, we need to figure out what b is, right? So we know that when x is equal to b, right, y is equal to 48. So all we need to do, we're going to plug that into our equation again. So you're going to say 48 is equal to 6 multiplied by x, which in this case is b. So therefore b is equal to 48 all over 6. So therefore b is equal to 8, right? So this question is based on what we call variation, right? Right? So this question is called variation. Now here's the thing here, right? When they tell us y varies directly as x, right, this is how the equation is going to look, right? But if they tell you y varies inversely as x, right, what that means is that y is proportional to 1 over x. So you all need to know what inverse variation is as well, right? So if we say y varies inversely as x, we're going to say y is proportional to 1 over x, and therefore y is equal to k over x, right? This is called inverse variation, right? Which can show up in the exam as well, right? Right? People asking about vectors and matrices. So I don't know if you all have looked at some of the videos on my YouTube channel, right? But I have a ton of videos, right? I have 2 excellent videos on vectors. One is vectors, right? And that video is still, lots of people still use that video to understand vectors. That's one. And I also have a video on circle geometry, right? So pay attention to those 2 videos, right? Right, so that is, right, so that's part D. Right, so this one here is May 2010. Let's see what's happening here. right? So part A seems to be a substitution problem, right? So we have, right, A is equal to -1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to -3. And we want to work out, right, we want to work out A plus B plus C, right? So in this case here, we know that A is equal to -1, right? B is equal to 2, and C is equal to -3, right? So in this case here, A is -1, so this is -1 plus 2, right? And then we have -3, right? Plus -3, right? Now this seems simple here, but I can see students having trouble with this. So -1 plus 2 is 1, right? And 1 minus 3, you're going to get -2, right? So that's the answer for that one. For part 2, you want to work out B squared minus C squared, right? So in this case here, B is 2. So this is going to be 2 squared minus C squared. So C in this case is -3 squared. So 2 squared is 4 minus -3 squared is going to give us 9. So 4 minus 9, you're going to get -5, right? Right? Oh, I've seen some people getting 13. How people getting 13 here? The answer is not 13. Because when I square -3, I'm going to get +9. Right? Right? So that is the first part. Let's see what else we have here. We have some kind of algebraic expression thingy here. Right, write the following phrases as algebraic expressions. So this could also come in the exam. So 7 times the sum of x and y. What you all think the answer is for part 1 here? 7 times the sum of x and y. What you all think that is? Right, so all right, so this one here seems like everybody getting this correct, right? So when they said 7, so this part 1, right? So 7 times, so it's 7 times means to multiply the sum of x and y, right? So we can write this a little better, right? So we can just write this as 7 open brackets x plus y, right? So we just translating words into an expression. The next one here, right? What about this one? The product of 2 consecutive numbers when the smaller number is y. Now this is a nice one. The product of two consecutive numbers when the smaller number is y. What you all think is the answer for that one? I see some people asking how long I'll be live for. Let me just check something here. I may be able to do one more question, maybe. Yeah, I'll probably do one more question, right? I'll see. Right, so I've seen some people have the correct answer. So guys, I remember somebody in Form 5 asking me what does consecutive means, right? So consecutive means one after the next, right? So if we're looking at two consecutive numbers, right? Two consecutive numbers could be something like 4 and 5, 6 and 7. Those are consecutive numbers, one after the next. Now they are telling us that the smaller number is actually y. So if the smaller number is y, right, the number that comes after has to be y plus 1. That's the number that comes after, right? Now they want us to work out the product of those two numbers. So product means multiply, right? So in this case, it is going to be y multiplied by y plus 1. That's what it is, right? It's the product of two numbers, right? Now, you can leave the answer like that if you want, or you can write it as y by y plus 1, and that's fine, right? So that is what it means to have the product of two consecutive numbers, right? The next one here, right? We have a simultaneous equation again, right? I'll probably just use elimination for this one, right? So it's about the third simultaneous equation we see in here. So we have 2x plus y is equal to 7, and we have x minus 2y is equal to 1, right? So what I could do, I can decide to use substitution or elimination, doesn't really matter, right? Let's do, I'll make it harder, right? So let's eliminate, let's say y, right? So equation 1, and let's call this equation 2, right? And what we're going to do, we're going to eliminate y. So if I want to eliminate y, I'm going to take the first equation and I'm going to multiply that by 2. So this will be 4x plus 2y is equal to 14, right? So that's the first equation. I'm multiplying it by 2. So let's call that equation 3. And so once you interfere with equation 1, I'm not going to use it again, right? Some students get a little confused with that. I've interfered with equation 1, so I'm not going to use that again. So we're going to write back equation 2, which is x minus 2y is equal to 1, right? This is our second equation, right? So guys, if I want to eliminate y, what am I going to do? Am I going to add or subtract? If I want to eliminate y, am I going to add or subtract? What do you all think? Yes, just here for entertainment. That is true. That statement you're saying is true. If y was a larger number in the previous question, it would have been y minus 1 by y. Yep. All right, people saying to add. Yeah, I agree. We're going to add the two equations. So we're going to say equation 3 plus equation 2. Right, so if I add these two equations here, right, 4x plus x, you're going to get 5x. Right, 2y plus minus 2y, you'll get 0. So you're eliminating there. So 14 plus 1 is 15. So therefore x is equal to 15 over 5. And therefore x is equal to 3. Right? So, right. So x is equal to 3 in this case here. So we need to figure out what y is. So you can substitute that into any one of the equations. So I'll probably substitute into the first one. So this will be 2 by 3 plus y is equal to 7, So therefore 6 plus y is equal to 7. So therefore y is equal to 7 minus 6. So y is equal to 1, right? So that's it. That's all we need to do to solve this pair of simultaneous equations, right? All right, so the next part is factorizing, right? Next part is factorizing. So in this case here, right? Let's go on the next slide here. All right, so the first one, that's going to be straightforward. So the first one is the difference of two squares, right? So this one here is 4y squared minus z squared, right? So that's the difference of two squares. I can first write this as 2y squared minus z squared. So this here is going to be 2y plus z, right, in one bracket, and then 2y minus z in a second bracket, right? So that's the difference of two squares. Straightforward, nothing too complicated here. The second one is clearly going to be factorizing by grouping, because you're going to see four terms here, right? So we have 2ax, right, minus 2ay minus bx plus by, right? Now, if you want to factorize this, again, you're going to factorize, combine these two, and you're going to factorize each one separately. So in the first one, you can factor out 2a, open brackets, x minus y. And for the second one, right, you can go with minus b, and this is also going to be x minus y, right? For those of you who not seeing this, if you take minus b by minus y, then you're going to get plus by, right? So this here now, you're going to write down your common bracket, which is x minus y, and then we have 2a minus b, right? So that's part two, as the answer there, right? And here's a fun one here, the third one, right? This is a quadratic, and generally students have trouble factorizing a quadratic, right? So we have right? Now, there are some students, right, who can do this in one line, right? And that's fine, and that's great, right? There are some students who can just watch this and they can factorize it in one line. If you just put the answer in one line and it's correct, you get full marks. That's not a problem, right? But there are some students who have trouble factorizing a quadratic, and I understand, I get that, right? So I'm going to show you a longer method of working this out using what we call sum and product method, right? So I'm not seeing the question properly, so let me just 3x squared plus 10x minus 8, right? Now this is a foolproof method in order to factorize a quadratic, right? So now, what we're going to do here, we're going to look for two numbers whose sum, right? Now the sum is always the coefficient of x. So the sum of the two numbers we're looking for is going to be 10, and we need to figure out, we're looking for two numbers whose product, right, has to be equal to this number multiplied by this number, right? So 3 by 8, you're going to get 24. So I'm looking for two numbers whose sum, right, sorry, minus 24, right? 3 by minus 8 is minus 24. So I'm looking for two numbers such that when I add them up, I'm going to get 10. And when I multiply them, I'm going to get negative 24. Do you all know what those two numbers are? What are those two numbers? When I multiply them, right, I will get minus 24. And when I add them, I'll get 10. What two numbers are we looking for here? And by the way, there's only one possible solution, right? I know some students think there might be more than one. There's only one possible solution, right? Right, I see one or two of you all have the answer correct. those of you putting answers in the chat, take those same two numbers you're giving me, multiply them and see if you're getting minus 24, and add them and see if you're getting 10. If you're not, then the two numbers are wrong. Yes, J2K20. Yes, your answer is correct. Right? Alright, so the two numbers we're looking for here, right? So some people saying it in the chat, right? Let's see what they're saying. Some people saying 12 and minus 2. Let's check and see if that's correct. Right? So if I use 12, right, and minus 2. When I multiply 12 and minus 2, I will get negative 24. And if I add 12 and negative 2, I am getting 10. Because 12 minus 2 will give me 10. So that's true. Now, what do we do with this here? Right? What do we do with these two numbers? So the objective of this technique or this method is to replace the middle term using these two numbers. That's what you're doing. Right? So this is going to be 3x squared. Now here's what you're doing. You're not going to write 12 and just minus 2. You're going to put plus 12x, right, minus 2x. Right? So that's where the two numbers come into play. Minus 8. Right? So, like I said, this is a foolproof method to factorize any quadratic. Right? So if you're having trouble factorizing, this technique will always work. So now, it looks like, so I've taken the quadratic and I've broken it up now so that you have 4 terms. So this now looks like factorizing by grouping. So if it is factorizing by grouping now, then what you need to do, you need to factorize this and factorize this, right? So here's what you're going to do. In the first two terms, you can factor out 3x, then open brackets, x, right? And if you want to get 12x, this is x plus 4. So that's your first factorization here. The first two terms, when I factorize it, I get that. Now we have minus 2x minus 8. What do we do here? If you pull out minus 2, then this will be open brackets, x. And if you want to get minus 8, this has to be a plus 4, right? So those of you trying to figure out what I'm doing here, minus 2 by 4 will give me the minus 8, right? So now, just like we did previously, you have a common bracket. So it'll be x plus 4 in one bracket, and then you'll have 3x minus 2 in the second bracket, right? So this is one foolproof method of factorizing any quadratic, right? Right? Alright guys, so I hope that that's not why couldn't it be 6 4BUs? Right? Somebody's asking, just remember whatever two numbers you give me, right? Multiply it and see if you're getting minus 24 and add it and see if you're getting minus 10. If you are not, then those two numbers can't be correct, right? Right? Now, like I said, there are some students who will do this. They'll go in the exam, they'll put 3x squared plus 10x minus 8, right? And then they will just watch this here, and they will say, you know what? All right, I want to get 3x squared. Let's put 3x here, and let's put x here, right? Now, I want to get negative 8, right? So maybe if I put a 2 here and a 4 here, will I get it? Right? So there's some students who can just jump from this line to this line here, and you will get full marks, right? Once it's correct, you're going to get full marks one time. All right, so I know some of you are asking what time I'm finishing, right? So I'm going to pause here, right? I'm going to pause there, right? Because I have other things I need to get done. So guys, if you haven't done so as yet, please remember to hit like and subscribe. And please click the bell notification button so you'll know when I go live, right? Because I can't tell you when I'm going to go live next, right? Is when I have a little free time is when I'm going to go live, right? Right, so some of you are asking about the other subjects, right? So let me just give you an idea of what's happening, right? So I have my actual crash courses, right? And some of you all might be wondering, is it free? Is it not free? So these crash courses are paid courses, right? In the case of maths, right? So maths is on the 5th, right? 6th and the 7th. I know your exam is on the 9th, right? And this is from 8 p.m., right? So it's 8 p.m. in the night. And it's supposed to finish at 10:30. But if I'm not finished with what I'm doing, I will go beyond time, right? So the crash course is actually 3 days. That's for the maths, right? Those of you who are asking about the AdMaths, right? So AdMaths is on the 3rd, right? It's on the 3rd. That's a Saturday. And that is from 9 a.m., right, to 2:30 p.m., right? And by the way, this is Trinidad times you're talking about here, not Jamaican time, right? In the case of chemistry, right? So my chemistry crash course is on the 10th, and again that's 9 a.m. to 2:30, right? And the last one here is physics. I know a lot of people were asking about physics, right? So physics is on the 17th, right? And again that's 9 a.m. to 2:30. Right? Some people are asking about the cost, right? So for each one here, this is in TT dollars, by the way. So that's 300, right? Those of you who are from the other Caribbean countries, it is 45 US, right? To attend each one of these crash courses, right? If you guys are interested, send me a WhatsApp at 868-784-2059, right? And guys, so I noticed a lot of people have been calling me randomly, right? Please, I will respond to WhatsApp messages. And when I say calling me randomly, I am being pulled into these group video calls or group calls, right? Please don't do that, right? I will ignore those calls. I don't want to be part of any group calls. If you send me a WhatsApp directly, I may respond to you, right? But these group calls that seem to be coming at all hours of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, people calling me, right? So please don't do that, right? All right, so like I said, just remember to hit like and subscribe so you'll know when I go live next, right? Over the weekend, I'll probably do something because this is Easter weekend, so I may have a little free time, right? So guys, thanks for showing up. Thanks for all the support, guys, right? Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, people. Be safe, and I will see you soon, hopefully, right? Take care, guys. No, it's not per session. For the maths, it's not per session. That's for the 3 sessions in total, right?